very principled people. I don't really think they need an introduction, but if you could indulge me, just for the occasional person who might not know them. So immediately to my side is Rahima Mahmood, who is UK Director of the World Uyghur Congress, which promotes Uyghur rights, and she's chair of Stop Uyghur Genocide. She's also a lead vocalist of the London Waterloo collective and a really superb performer, so do look her up if you haven't heard her. We've also got Jalko Shaw, who was one of the Tiananmen Square protest student leaders. Shortly after the massacre, he was listed as number 5 on the government's wanted list and was soon arrested. He spent a year in jail. He later fled to the US, and today he continues his activism in the role of Executive Director of Human Rights in China and President of Humanitarian China. And finally, we've got Ma Jian, who's an award-winning author, widely regarded as one of China's most supported writers. His writing is banned in China, some of it, and his works include Stick Out Your Tongue, Red Dance, China Dream, and Beijing Coma. The last of which could be said to be the Tiananmen Square novel. I mean, when I read it in 2008, I was so blown away, in fact, that as I told Flora Drew, who's the final one and is his translator, I actually basically naive 20-something way trying to buy the film rights to the story because it feels like it should be a film, to which I was brutally told no one in Hollywood would touch that with a barge pole. So I think that is one of the reasons why we're here today, because the silencing of Tiananmen is something that happens full throttle within China itself, but it also happens outside China. Many different people and players are complicit. In many ways, I don't feel qualified to be on this panel. I am the CEO now, as of yesterday, of Index Censorship, and I did live in China for several years, but I don't feel like I have the bravery of these people. I often think, what would I have done if I had been in China in 1989? Would I have gone to the square? I really hope the answer is yes, but I really can't say. So that is going to be where I'm going to start tonight. All 3 of these people were in the square at some stage in that kind of 6-week period that led up to the horrendous massacre. So I would love to just ask each of the panelists first to tell me what their kind of main enduring memories of that period are. So I'm going to first hand to Rahima.
Thank you. And it was memory, I would say, stayed with me, so one of the things that I can never forget. I was very young. I traveled all the way from Dalian University to Beijing. Because when you're young, sometimes you don't really think that much when you see so many people just joining. Because at the time we felt this is a movement, it is historic, and we have to be part of this history. And that made me feel that it is important for me to be part of that.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. I was one of the first students to go to Tiananmen Square after Liang died. I was also among the last to leave. I witnessed the most amazing moment of my life, seeing a different picture of China, Chinese beings. I also witnessed the most shocking, brutal massacre attacks for just 20 feet from me. And more importantly, I never realized this would be the beginning of my life, 35 years going. It's a lot of pain. There's tremendous sense of honor and duty in it to be part of this great movement. To me, I think this is always important to remind the world. Most people think it was a tragic feeling, but it was the beginning of this call for democratization of China. That was the beginning of this ongoing work with our parliament. And I'm really grateful that we Good morning. I was here to unpack it. I'm really thankful that everyone comes today. What happened in Hong Kong the last 24 hours, that's what CCP want to do. They want to set, they want people to believe this was past. It's not. It's definitely worth every effort for us to fight for.
Thank you. Jian, can I get your thoughts, your memories of the time and square?
虽然我是用普通话来说话，需要翻译，非常抱歉，可能因为时间变得长一点。天安门广场对我印象最深的一个镜头，就是有一天我从纪念碑晚上睡觉醒过来的时候，突然我不知道那是5月多少号，可能5月27号是那天，突然就是人山人海，填满了天安门广场的每一个角落。那些人的脸，这是我印象最深的。他们没有一种就像你们现在看到的中国人的脸，他们可能面带微笑，又非常放松。他们来自年轻人，来自老人，还有人把孩子放在肩膀上，太多太多。你可以说是那是一个中国人唯一的一个自由的广场，这是我印象最深的一个镜头。
So the memory that sticks most in my mind is it was possibly May 27th around, and I had slept on the square, and I woke up in the central monument to the people's heroes in the centre of the square, quite high up, so I had a view out over the entire square, and it was an incredible sight to see this vast square filled with humanity, and even in this huge crowd, I could see each individual face, and it's not these faces, the expression on these faces are not like the faces that the expressions you would see in China now. They all seemed relaxed, they were smiling, these people they were young, old, they were parents with kids on their shoulders. And I was overcome with a sense of a feeling that this possibly was a moment of a square that embodied pure freedom, and it was an incredibly powerful experience and memory.
I read something that you wrote in The Diplomat, which you said, whilst Tiananmen Square was sparking in protest, those in the Uyghur region joined them in calling for reform. The period following the Cultural Revolution would see more freedom for the Uyghur people, mosques reopened, our cultural rights were gradually being restored. It felt as though we had an opportunity to secure a democratic future free from the violent crackdowns and repression that plagued our parents' generation. You also told me just before about how one of the student leaders was a Uyghur himself. I mean, did this movement have kind of extra resonance coming as a Uyghur for you?
Yes, absolutely. When we compare Tibet or the Uyghur region or the mainland China provinces, especially like Shanghai or Beijing, when we traveled from where we were at that time, I could see the difference because I felt there were more freedom in other provinces compared to where I came from. The Tiananmen movement, the democratic movement, absolutely was a kind of opportunity for freedom-loving people. Naturally, we like this kind of open kind of space, because that's where we come from. And going to the square itself was a kind of dream come true. Whenever there is crackdown, I mean, we've seen since the Tiananmen massacre, the new leadership, they're much tougher, rules. That when Beijing, the situation became worse, where the so-called Xinjiang was at, the 10 times worse. It became 10 times worse. So that's why it is important that when we achieve freedom in China, that also affects the freedom for the Uyghur people, for the Tibetans. And of course, I know Urkesh, his name in Chinese is Ward, she was the second top leader. And we were incredibly proud when we heard that the number 2 leader was a Uyghur. And of course, he didn't represent the Uyghur at the time. He represented the wish, the dream of the people of China. And that is the same for everyone.
So, as a senior student leader, you've also had a very prominent position. I mean, at what stage did you become kind of aware of the injustices that were being carried out in the name of the CCP? What was your path to Tiananmen Square?
I grew up as a second-class citizen. We were farmers, peasants. That's China's system of hierarchical control. But we live in a relatively better place than most of the village. We were actually very close to the city of Xi'an. I was very aware of the artificial brutal division of people. There are some people who belong to the city, and some people like us who belong to the village. For me, that's something that I was very much motivated to fight against when I became first aware of my self-identity. When I was very young, I began to question the system. Of course, later, I was a voracious reader. I read everything I touched my hands on. And actually, ironically, because at that time, there wasn't a regular textbook situation like the London Waterloo, the first sentence. But as a result of a lot of discussion of political issues, I became very much aware of it at a very early age. For example, of the first Tiananmen incident that was against Mao Zedong in 1976. And I realized at that time that that's the protesters, they were very idealistic. They were fighting for something far more noble than the government represented. So for me, that was my beginning. And later, when I was learning English, I read lots of English literature. I basically taught myself by reading. And my first speech on Tiananmen Square was comparing the Chinese Constitution against the Declaration of Independence. For me, the ability to share with, I deeply believe, with people on Tiananmen Square, that was tremendous. It's very liberating. Even though most people were afraid of what I was saying, because this alone was enough to be completely of counter-revolution at that time.
So where did you get the courage at that time? Is it from the crowds or?
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's a very slow process. Even though I was very much ready for it spiritually, but the first day when we were going to Tiananmen Square to offer the flower wreaths, we were very fearful. We didn't know what will happen, but we felt like this is something we must do. We wanted to do it, and we were surprised that the police didn't arrest us. And the next day, our action was reported by a national newspaper, and that triggered more people to go to Tiananmen Square. The other moment, I think, that decided my life later was when thousands of people gathered together on square in Tsinghua University. Thousands of Tsinghua students. These are the future leaders of China. Even though everyone knew exactly what we wanted to do, but nobody was willing to step out. And we were looking at each other, waiting for someone to be the leader. I felt like enriched by the situation. Oh wow, I don't think I'm the material for a leader, but if nobody else is doing it, I have to step out. Just follow me. That's how I stood out and led thousands of people into the atmosphere. It's basically the sense of duty and a lot of practice.
One of the things that might not be surprising to the panel, but I've always found surprising, is kind of the energy that the CCP put into crushing the memory of Tiananmen, and that it's actually grown throughout the years. So the further away when people's memories might fade, anyways, naturally they put in even more energy. So for Marjan, your work is often about erasure of memory. Beijing coma in and of itself, it's all about following someone who's in a coma because of it. Have you also been surprised by how long and how much energy the CCP put into crushing the memory of Tiananmen and controlling the narrative?
我想回到80年代，我可能要分3次，也不太长的地方。80年代的时候，有一种现象，我们简单的要说一个人，就叫方励之，大家都说他是中国的马恩桑，在波兰。那个时候，整个的东欧的这些共产党国家就出来了很多反对的声音，然后传到我们这里。比如说，我拍了一个照片，那个照片就是你们学生们，欢迎戈尔巴乔夫，然后不浪，还有一个词叫公平还是公正性，很有意思这个词。这个 open 的意思，那个时候在做这样的事情。这个照片我拍的时候，当时的气氛可以告诉我们。中国是处在一个人们都想表达、都需要言论自由的这么一个阶段。
So yeah, this question brings to mind a picture that I was just found today that I took on the square, and it was of the students holding up a photograph of Gorbachev and. Said who was visiting China in the run-up in a few days before June 4th, and it said, "Welcome, hooray for Glasnost, welcome Gorbachev to China," and the whole picture seemed to embody that huge longing and desire for free expression, to letting out of emotions, this yearning for freedom. and openness.
所以你今天看到吴京又站到了那个广场，这就是记忆的重要。如果我们把记忆保住的话，历史会回来，会让我们看清，我们不会再出现第二次错误，我们可以避免很多东西，这是我们需要记忆的一部分。但是共产党的记忆跟我们相反，他们记着所有的细节，包括他颁发给那些戒严部队的一个奖章，结果他的老婆多年之后不小心拿出来了，正在炫耀，他的老婆也已经犯了罪，因为这也是记忆的一部分。共产党抹掉记忆的一个原因，就是他们是原罪，他们是罪犯。
And this, of course, is in stark contrast to just a few days ago when Putin arrived in Tiananmen Square recently, and Tiananmen Square was completely empty of any students, and it was this big formal welcoming, and it just brought it seemed to encapsulate this the importance of memory, how that memory of the students welcoming Gorbachev 35 years ago, the fact that that has been completely obliterated and erased means that now they are able to welcome Putin without any kind of reflection on history. And this is why memory is so important. It allows us not to make the same historical mistakes again. So whereas among the people these important historical memories have been erased, you can be assured that the CCP itself remembers the smallest detail. It will, and the reason for this is that they know that they themselves are history's, the criminals of history, and they remember it because there is a sense of guilt, but also fear, and that is why they both hold on to the memories and wish to erase them.
我想我的记忆和中国共产党的记忆正相反。作为一个集权，他设法掩盖真相。那么我作为一个作家，我就要揭露真相。这种记忆的方法是一样的，在这种记忆里面，我们才能够让我找回我为什么会记住它。用一句简单的话来说吧，就是我认为天安门的大屠杀带给我的冲击，很像是一种信仰，它把我拉回了我的道德的力量的源泉，因为我在那里，我才能找到什么是人的价值，什么是民主自由，它的失败的原因。跟共产党长期的统治的一个原因，比如说政治恐惧，是有直接的原因导致今天。所以我的记忆非常重要，每一个细节、每一个画面都在我的脑子里面。我在与集权对抗。
Memory, in fact, my memory is just as clear as the CCP's. The totalitarian regimes want to repress it, but the writer needs to hold on to it and to expose it. And I feel personally that Tiananmen almost has taken on a religious significance to me, because it is a crucial, pivotal event that makes me reflect on not only what is the meaning of democracy, of freedom, but also what are the fundamental values that should underpin human society. So really this fight to hold on to memory is a fight for freedom against tyranny.
我想心理上我们成为一个人，就这么简单。
I think to put it simply, memory allows us to be full human beings.
Which kind of segues quite nicely into a question from Eva, where Tiananmen being this universal thing that impacted everyone, and the memory around it. I mean, in terms of Uyghurs, you know, the history has very much been attacked by the CCP. Could you expand on that?
That's a good question. Actually, the turning point was in the massacre, and for the government to get away with such crimes that allowed China also to grow economically in every way, to become powerful, and then become so powerful that they could commit genocide. And during the last 6-7 years, and this is ongoing in our country, millions in camps, tortured, killed, gang raped, sterilized, forced into slave labor, children being taken away and put in the so-called boarding schools, but it's, again, they're like children's camps. They're not allowed to see their parents when they want. So anyway, all these crimes that it didn't happen overnight. It is the failure of, you know, the victory of the CCP at the terrorist by crushing those hundreds of thousands of young, innocent, beautiful students, the future of China. And then gradually, it was like a year by year after year, it became even more brutal. And then led to, you know, what the crimes from the massacre to genocide of people. And it's really, really painful. It's absolutely painful, kind of. I remember when I left the square on the 2nd of June, I believe a lot of students still didn't believe that there will be tanks coming in, or, you know, even though we were repeatedly warned that we need to empty the square, that, you know, there will be serious consequences. And then after we went back, on the 4th of June in the evening, we were summoned to watch the news. All the students must go to all the lecture theatres to watch the news in the evening, and the news was completely the CCP version of what happened. It was showing how the bomb flew, what they call it, the rioters attacking the beloved soldiers. Also, 1 month after, when we finished, when we had our summer holiday, so I had to travel from Dalian, 21 hours train journey, then stay overnight in Beijing, take train 72 hours back to Wenji. And I remember the memory that I had about a month before. Then the day when I arrived in Beijing 1 month later in July, it was dark. It was quiet. I felt like it was a ghost town, and the soldiers were visible everywhere. I even saw soldiers standing on top of some buildings, and it was really chilly. And that is a sin in my country. If you visit, you know, you will see that. And I've seen, although I didn't visit since I came here in 2000 for the last 24 years, but I could see from some of the videos, some of the footage that people brought, and that is a kind of pure white terror that is happening. It's an everyday life for many people.
I'm aware that time is going on, and I want to ask everyone a few more questions, and then I will open up to the audience for a few questions too. I wanted to move a bit in time, just really kind of staying with kind of the Uyghur genocide that, do you feel that that kind of solidarity is still here, what, kind of 18 months on?
How I can answer that question? I would say yes, and also I can say no. There are very, very few number. I mean, the people who are showing the solidarity, and even some of the leaders of that campaign, unfortunately, really not saying much about the Uyghur situation. But we have to have hope. I've seen some young generation, young people showing support. But when we compare the number, it's just far, far too small.
The white people protest. And so I know quite a lot of the people who are part of the protest have studied overseas, and your organisations work with overseas Chinese. I mean, what role do you think that these people will be playing in the Chinese democracy movement in years to come?
I think what happened during the white paper movement definitely demonstrated the power of overseas activism. It is because this mobilization of the diaspora community, especially among the young students, and most notably what happened here in London in October and early November, that spread the message of the Richmond coming from in October, that enable people in China to build this consensus before the collation of the protest in Shanghai and other big cities in late November. And this actually wasn't the first time. Even in 1989, the Tiananmen protest was in many ways influenced, triggered by what happened outside the collapse of the Soviet Union control the Eastern blocs, especially what happened in Poland led by the Solidarity Union. That was a direct motivation for us. Actually, the student, the first call, we want to form a student organization called Solidarity Student Union, just like the Solidarity Union there. And also from the overseas Chinese, there was an open letter movement signed by thousands of Chinese students before the protest. That was one reason I learned about the political prisoners when I was in China before the protest. Actually, my organization now, Human Rights in China, was formed before 1989 protest in Beijing by the Chinese students overseas. So apparently there was lots of build-up before that. I think it's even more important today because of the cyber community that's powered by Twitter, Telegram, music right now. Even with this obstacle of the firewall, people from China, tens of millions of them, are able to get that message directly from the free world, and that's very important going into the future. So I think the importance of the overseas activism cannot be overemphasized. That's also why the CCP is so thrilled. It spent lots of resources to engage in transnational repression against overseas activism. And for most part, last 3 decades since 1989, the activism in these Western democratic countries were largely marginalized. So I think that now we need more support, at least
those who have got a magazine, the current magazine of Index or Censorship does look at transnational oppression. There are some available copies. Please do subscribe as well. So I'm just going to ask one final question, which is directed to all three of the panelists. What would you say to a young Chinese person growing up in China today who hasn't heard about Tiananmen Square, the protests, the massacre because of huge censorship regime? What would you say to them? What would be your few lines?
The massacre has happened, and because of the technology, it's much easy for people to find the sources. And I do believe that, first of all, they must believe what happened. We are the witness. We are here, we are the witness. I was there. Although I didn't see the massacre on the 24th, but I can give some names who died on the day. Therefore, I want them to believe, that's the number one thing, to not believe the CCP version, believe the witness. And when you hear the witness, you are the witness. And when you are the witness, you need to take action.
It's actually very easy for Chinese people in China today, if they want to know, as easy as just finding any newspaper in China published May 18, May 17, the official newspapers, they were all covering the protests truthfully, and that's why there was this sense of freedom among Chinese people. It's not that hard to find the truth of history. What most people remember is as a trauma and wants to avoid it, but it's also a tremendous source of inspiration. It showed a completely different China, alternative to today's China country. I think that's very important for the young people. It's not only for the past, it's a vision for the future.
如果我来说的话，当然我可能会从这本书的名字叫《肉之土》，我是说中文的名字。为什么要这么看呢？我就想每个人都有这个生和死这个过程，在座的可能都是这样。但是在这个过程里面，我们最重要的一个问题就是我们要有一种自由的活着。 我们要有自己的性格、自己的情感、自己的记忆，所以我经常会跟你们来留学的那些学生们，包括都叫我干爸爸什么的 ，OK， 那些电视台的朋友，他们的孩子在这里留学，我经常会给他们谈，让他们记住。当一个历史过去的时候，你可能没有得到一种经验。 你不知道这是一种教训，你甚至就是你以为这是一个很大的悲剧，我们叫天安门大屠杀，它是一个悲剧，但是在这个悲剧里面，我们不是在这个悲剧里面不动的，我们从悲剧里边是要找到希望的，是让这个悲剧有机会变成一种教训，变成我们思想的一部分。 变成我们要守住道德的一种力量，所以我是在这么跟你们讲，你可以不看这本书，但是你可以要知道整个这个过程，这个真相。这些人他们可能失败了，他们跟共产党合作可能失败了，但是失败也是一种优秀，因为他们做出了这种失败。 是让你们找到不失败。
wrote this book about the Tiananmen massacre was to give to young Chinese people to tell them this is what happened. That really what we all want from life is very simple. We want to live freely. We want to have our true memories, our genuine emotions. We want to speak our thoughts freely. And I tell them, you may think of Tiananmen Square massacre as a tragedy, but we can't be stuck in tragedy. We must search for it lessons. It must become a powerful source of that can allow us to understand what is right and wrong. It can be a source of morality. And I also want to tell them that they maybe see that Tiananmen movement for freedom as a failure. It ended in a massacre. Their aims weren't achieved. But I want to tell them that it was a heroic failure, and you can't be stuck in failure. You must see it as why is it heroic? It's because their failure, the failure of these students, shows the younger generation the path forward to success, to triumph, to achieving all these goals that the Tiananmen generation fought for.
Yes, I just want to show this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, why don't you want to quickly do that now, and then I will.
Yeah, I just want to show a few of the antiques I collected over the years. For me, it's a tremendous privilege to be entrusted with these relics, and every item is a testimony of courage and hope over the last 35 years. This towel was made in April of 1983. It was used to apply to a wound when someone was shot on Tiananmen Square. This was the same place that I was, and it's evidence of the murder of CCP, but it's also evidence of life and hope. This was the reason of the massacre. It was a dream for free democratic China. So it says democracy, freedom. This is the goddess of democracy. This was made on Tiananmen Square for the students when they were building the goddess of democracy on Tiananmen Square, which was crashed by the tanks a few days later. This was the most wanted list of the students. So I was number 5 there. This was the moment that I realized my life would be forever changed. I was shocked, fearful, but I was also tremendously proud of myself, of being recognized for what I did. This is for Hong Kong. This is the 20 years anniversary of Tiananmen massacre. Over 100,000 of people gathered in Hong Kong. We are forever indebted to the people of Hong Kong for the courageous people like Jimmy Lai who printed this newspaper. And this is the reason he's in prison. And same for Zhou Xingkong. Her mother, together with 5 other supporters of her, were all charged recently for the first time under the Article 23, the national security law.
For sharing those. I think we have time for 2 questions from the audience. But anyone that might be more than 2, you can always speak to them after. So first 2 hands up. Oh, Solomon.